Hello, welcome back. Week 8, Lecture 2, Cricket Conditioning, Program Design, Case 1. So, the objective of this lecture is to review the fitness training design framework. Then, we will review the conditioning fitness framework by Laursen and Buchheit, HIIT framework. Now, this is the basis of conditioning program design. This would be followed by introducing the case 1, which will have the exercise history and the fitness test, the baseline fitness test, which would be applied to understand the background and create the measurable goal. Then we will apply this concept to set a SMART goal which will have the specific time frame within which that fitness goal needs to be achieved. Then we will learn how to create the training blocks, which is nothing but creating the periodized training sessions. Then the objective is to learn how to select fitness variable to train in each training block. Now, once you have created a periodized block, now you would select a particular fitness variable to train in that periodized block. And finally, now you have the cycles, now you have the fitness variable to train within that cycle. Now you will design a program which is the selection of progression, training method, volume per week per fitness variable within the training block. So the outcome of this lecture is you should be able to create a new fitness program using the fitness training design framework. The second objective is you should be able to set a SMART goal setting to different cases. The third outcome is you should be able to create the periodized blocks to achieve the SMART goal that you have set. And the last combined outcome is you should be able to design the fitness program for each fitness variable within the microcycles. Let's begin with objective number 1, fitness training design framework. Now this framework has 5 parts. In the first part, you clearly mention the goal that you want to achieve, because without mentioning the goal, your program designs would be too generic. And in order to design that SMART goal, you need 2 important information. One, the time period within which you want to achieve the goal, and then the exercise history, the fitness test and demographic information about the athlete or case that you want to design the program. Once you have set the SMART goal, now you create a periodized training and planning program. Now this is where you apply load paradigm techniques and which will help you to create the mesocycle and corresponding microcycles. Once you have created, and this can also be called as block. Once you have created the block, then you select which fitness variable you are going to train within that block. This is step number 3. Step number 2 and step number 3 together is called creating a periodized planned programs. Now in step number 4, you have the periodized plan, which means you have a time frame of 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Within that time frame, you know which fitness variable to train Now you design a fitness program which is manipulation of acute training variable, frequency, intensity, training method, volume and progression. This is called as fitness training design framework, which will help you to design a customized, periodic, progressively overload fitness program that will help you to systematically achieve the SMART goal that you have set. Now, objective number 2. Let's review the conditioning fitness variable. Here we are using Laursen and Buchheit's HIIT framework. With this framework, there are 6 types of conditioning. Type 1 conditioning is improving aerobic conditioning, that is you are improving aerobic system. Type 2 conditioning is with aerobic conditioning as base, the focus is to improve neuromuscular qualities which include speed, force, power. Now type 3 conditioning is with aerobic conditioning as base, your focus is to improve your anaerobic conditioning. Type 4 conditioning is with base as aerobic conditioning, your focus is to develop 2 types of system, anaerobic system as well as neuromuscular system. Now, then type 5 conditioning, you focus only on anaerobic conditioning and neuromuscular conditioning. And type 6 is only neuromuscular qualities. So, this different types of conditioning helps you to classify the energy systems, and this classification can be applied using different formats of HIIT. So, if you want to develop aerobic conditioning, the HIIT format that you need to use is short HIIT. If you want to develop neuromuscular qualities along with aerobic conditioning, you have to use game based and short HIIT. If you want to develop anaerobic conditioning, you use long HIIT as type of HIIT. If you want to develop anaerobic conditioning with neuromuscular conditioning, now along with long HIIT which represent anaerobic, short HIIT which represent aerobic conditioning, you introduced RST, that is repeated sprint training, and game based to improve the neuromuscular energy system. If you want to develop only aerobic conditioning and neuromuscular conditioning, then you use short HIIT, then you use repeated sprint training and sprint interval training as a format of HIIT. And if you want to develop only neuromuscular conditioning, that is type 6, then you use speed session and strength session. Now, using this framework, cricket conditioning program design will be demonstrated. Now, let's understand the case study. A 32-year-old male playing cricket at the club level and who is also a fitness professional by occupation. So, the exercise history background: the exerciser is physically active, it means he is exercising, he is training since last 3 months. And what is he training? He is training for hypertrophy, that is muscle gain, and cardio to improve his aerobic capacity, and he has been doing it since last 2 months. Now, I would focus only on cardio and I will ignore the hypertrophy program designing, because to match the context of this course. Now, CRF fitness program since last 2 months. The exerciser is been doing cardio workout 2 or 3 times a week at 70 to 80% of HRR, that is at vigorous intensity, the type of training that he is used is long distance low speed, that is continuous training, and each session is of 20 minutes, and in that 20 minutes he is able to cover 2 kilometers. So that is the work capacity currently the exerciser is been doing since last 2 months. With this workout, the current fitness level with respect to cardio is 43 ml per kg per minute, which is measured indirectly, and the protocol that is used is 1.5 mile, that is 2.4 kilometer run test. Now, considering that the exerciser is a cricketer at club level and fast bowler, 43 ml per kg per minute of aerobic capacity requires to be improved, because with this level he will struggle to maintain the performance, and this is also one of the requirement of the athlete. The athlete goal is to bowl greater than 5 overs. The current experience of this athlete is he is not able to bowl more than 5 overs at the same intensity and performance that he could do for the initial first couple of overs. Now, this ability clearly is due to the lower aerobic capacity. At the same time, when it comes to the aerobic conditioning, the current capacity is 10.5 km per hour. This is again very weak, considering that he is actually even playing at the club level. So with this low aerobic conditioning, repeated ability of doing a jog speed or run speed activity will not be sustained, because he would jump to the aerobic conditioning, he would jump to the anaerobic energy system in order to sustain that activity, as the game is played repeatedly for longer period of time. In the case of the fast bowler, as he bowls more than 5 over or 3 overs, that's the reason he is experiencing drop in his performance. So here is the gap identified. To improve the cardio as well as to improve the aerobic conditioning. And in order to do this, the time frame that is set is 8 weeks. The specificity that is created is your aerobic conditioning needs to be improved. The format that is used is short HIIT. The volume that would be prescribed throughout the 8 weeks is from the 1 set to 3 sets, 20-meter distance with a work interval of 10 seconds, progress towards 30 seconds at an intensity of 100 to 110% of mass from week 1 to week 8. Now this specifically is called the exercise prescription, which specifically mentions the type of training method and the fitness variable that will help to improve the aerobic conditioning. Now, creating the training blocks. Now we have 8 weeks in our time, and the training periodized block that is created is 3 cycles of 2:1 standard load, where 2 represents number of weeks where stimulation is given back to back, which means number of week where you are giving a progressive overload back to back. And this is selected because the athlete has an experience of training cardio for more than 2 months, and the exerciser has the aerobic capacity of 43 ml per kg per minute, which is definitely above average, though less for the game that he has been playing. So now we have 3 cycles, 3 mesocycles. Now let's understand in this mesocycle, in this block, what fitness variable will be trained. Since it is identified the gap in the performance is due to lower aerobic capacity and aerobic conditioning, we have already identified which fitness variable needs to be improved. Now you need to sequence that in such a way that ultimately the SMART goal setting is achieved. Now when it comes to SNC, the results are not straightforward. Sport specific results are achieved through sequentially transferring one fitness variable to another fitness variable. Now here the objective is to make the fast bowler ball more than 5 overs. Now this ability, this demand requires ability to maintain the higher intensity power output. Now this can be achieved by type 2 conditioning. But however, since the base of type 2 conditioning is aerobic conditioning, if aerobic conditioning is less, no matter what volume or intensity you try to improve your neuromuscular system, you would limit your volume of anaerobic capacity improvement because you have already reached the threshold at a very lower volume and intensity as your aerobic conditioning is less. For that reason, the foundation fitness variable, that is aerobic capacity and aerobic conditioning, that needs to be improved first. At the same time, this athlete also has lower aerobic capacity, and for that reason he needs to continue training cardio and improve his aerobic capacity, which becomes the foundation for aerobic conditioning. So the sequencing is to first improve the aerobic capacity, then improve the aerobic conditioning, then improve his anaerobic capacity. Now this conversion is planned, organized in the 3 cycles. In the first cycle, 2 sessions for aerobic capacity and 1 session for aerobic conditioning. We start with 1 session of aerobic conditioning because before this 8 weeks of planning, exerciser athlete was not doing conditioning program, was not doing conditioning drills. So we start with 1 session a week and 2 sessions for cardio, and this throughout the first block same pattern of training is been given. Now in the second block, second mesocycle, the transfer is towards improving aerobic conditioning more by giving more frequency, and 1 frequency of training is given for cardio training. So here in the first block, both the fitness variable are trained equally. Now in the second block, since the objective is to repeatedly perform the activity, the transfer that is required is to convert aerobic capacity into aerobic conditioning, and this is started in week 2. Now in week 2 again the emphasis is more on developing aerobic conditioning. Now in week 3 the focus again is on balancing aerobic capacity and conditioning. Now this block represents increase giving progression with respect to intensity. Since both fitness variable requires improvement, you need to plan in such a way that both fitness variable are being trained in a balanced pattern. So in the first block, 2 sessions for aerobic capacity, 1 session for aerobic conditioning. In the second block, that is second mesocycle, 2 sessions for aerobic conditioning and 1 session for aerobic capacity, that is cardio. So this helps to balance, and this is how a balanced training and selection looks like. Now let's understand how a program is designed. To design a program, that is, you choose frequency, intensity, type, volume and progression. A suggestion is you start with progression. You have already set the frequency. Now you start filling F.I.T.T VP with progression. Now for cardio, so with respect to conditioning 1, the progression is given by training method, and with frequency, because this drill is been done first time. The training method is short HIIT. Now you mention, once you mention progression, you write the progression that represents the training method, which is mentioned in the type. So short HIIT, then you mention short HIIT. This is how you, this training method you will use to give a stimulation for aerobic conditioning. At what intensity? 100% of mass. So the current mass capacity is 12 km per hour. And then you mention volume. So now for short HIIT, the work interval is 10 to 60 seconds and the rest interval is 10 to 60 seconds. That is recommended work interval when you execute a short HIIT. So you start with 10 seconds prescription and rest interval of 30 seconds. So here you give 1:3 work to rest ratio, again because the athlete has been doing it for the first time. So a total of 20 meters distance to be covered, and he will run continuously for 10 seconds at 12 km per hour. This would be the first set. That way the athlete will perform 2 sets. A total of 240 meters of distance would be covered in this workout. Now moving to the next week. Here the progression for conditioning is given with respect to increasing the sets. Earlier it was 2 sets, now it is 3 sets. Rest of the parameter would be constant. We are giving progression only by increasing volume, and this volume is increased by increasing number of sets. So earlier he was doing 2 sets, 20 meters, running at 12 km per hour for 10 seconds. Now he is doing 3 sets. Now coming to the second block, the progression for conditioning, aerobic conditioning, is given by increasing the number of frequency. In the earlier block, the frequency was 1, now the frequency is 2. Rest programming variables are kept constant, so there is no change. The only change is the conditioning drills will be done 2 times in a week. Now in week 5, the progression is now given with respect to volume by increasing the work interval duration. Initially the work interval was 20 seconds. Initially the work interval was 10 seconds, now the work interval would be 20 seconds. So 20 seconds of work interval running at for 20 meter distance with a speed of 12 km per hour, and he'll be doing it for 2 times. Now this represent performing the activity for longer duration and repeating that activity. And in the last block, Now the progression is given with respect to intensity. Now from 12 km per hour, the speed would be 12.5 km per hour, which represent 110% of the original value. So the athlete would run. Now because the intensity has increased, we have decreased the work interval duration. This is to make sure that the athlete could manage to perform the given volume of workout, because as intensity increases, you need to decrease the volume so that adaptability is possible. Now this completes the conditioning programming for the 8 weeks. So we started with giving progression as a training method, and we ended the training by increasing the work volume and increasing the intensity. So always consider exercise history to decide what should be the starting volume and intensity. To calculate volume, consider the fitness test or sport specific demand distance. A framework like fitness training design helps practitioner to design a specific, periodized, overloaded and customize a fitness program without need to follow the generic fitness programs. Thank you.